Hey everyone, welcome back to Bucky's Customs. Hey, in this video I'm going to show you my SawStop. Yes, I just got a SawStop and I love this thing. Take a really good look at it because this will probably be the cleanest you will ever see it. Stay with us. Happy birthday to me. It is probably one of the craziest birthdays I've ever had. And I say that because my wife gave me a gift and I was totally blown away by it. I've been looking for a new table saw and I've been looking for quite a while. Haven't really decided on what to get, and I knew what I kind of wanted, but then again, things these days are just hard to find and long lead times and so on and so on. I don't know how my wife did it, but she found me a SawStop.
So we start by opening the largest box, obviously, because it has the saw in it. I believe it has the base in it. Even though I bought a mobile base and a few other accessories, I kind of had a feeling I had to start there. So, see me pull out the instructions and all the base components, some other components like the miter gauge, the push stick, the motor, that kind of thing. You see me lifting the motor out right there. I set that on the floor. So, time to get this out of the way and start building the base. So, I hung up the instruction poster, which was very, very illustrated, big enough for me to read, except for a couple of the smaller ones later on. I had to really squint at them, but everything was color coded and really well thought out and put together. I think everybody says that when they get a SawStop and do a unboxing. This thing is really, really made well, and I was very surprised that it's made in Taiwan. Um, Very, very surprised and how good a quality it was. So anyway, we're doing each side of the legs, following the instructions, and I'm just gonna let you listen to the music. Okay, so one thing I want you to keep in mind is make sure you do not totally tighten everything. You're really going to want this thing a little loose when you put the mobile base together. You're really going to need it that way. And here you see me opening up the mobile base box and pulling out all those parts and getting things ready to go so that I can assemble them on the base. Now, as I said, the instructions were pretty easy, but this old man had a little bit of difficulty in some trying to get a handle on the fact that I had the base upside down and the instructions had me building it upside right. So, it was pretty funny and comical. When I went through this video, I was like, oh man, do I need to show this? Do I need to show how dyslexic I am? But you know what? I think I'm going to show you that part you see me putting on there is put on incorrectly. And the next part, when I put that together with the old SawStop logo, that's put together or put on the base incorrectly as well. So we finally get it figured out and move on. But it's important that you pay attention to the directions in the way they show them. So you'll see me kind of struggle a little bit here, but then I get a handle on it and laugh about it and move on. So here you can see me moving on with the stand, the right side up, and gave me a little perspective on what I'm putting together there, and I still messed it up. It's pretty funny that I did, because I had the crossbar that goes from the front to the back or the left to the right was on top of the base brace, and I had no idea. You notice the pedal is low there. That's why. So we got that apart and redid it and moved on. It really didn't take that much more time. The next step was tightening every bolt, making sure everything was nice and tight. Now here you see me lifting the base and setting it on the saw in the box. Now I thought, dang man, I'm an old man by myself. How am I going to lift this saw out of this box and put it up on the stand? So I decided, heck, it's upside down in the box. Let's just put the stand on it. I bolted it all to it, tightened everything up, and kept my fingers crossed that I'd be able to just roll this out of the box and flip it over. So step one, cutting the box open on one side, and step two, starting the roll. Now, of course, I had to move the switch first, and it rolled out of there pretty easy. I thought, I got this. And then karma got me, and when I touched that top, I got shocked from all that styrofoam, but I managed to flip this thing up and set it on its wheels.
I think the hardest part is done. I got the base together, and you're supposed to have help to put this saw on the base, but I actually decided that I would just kind of roll it over. Everything's pretty stout, and I didn't see anything wrong with doing that other than the fact that I probably could have got hurt doing it, but I didn't. Not to say that I couldn't have. I definitely could have, and I don't recommend doing it that way, but when you work by yourself, you have to do things by yourself every once in a while. So this wasn't that hard to do. I managed to get it put together, and it went together really easy. The instructions for this are amazing. step by step by step. I'm not done. I'm on the back page of it, but that's awesome to be able to do that. Everything's color coded. I hope it's as easy to set up and fine tune as it was putting this much of it together. Stick around, we're almost done.
Here you see me pulling the plastic off, which has an oil coating on all the cast iron faces. It just wipes off with a rag. And right now what we're doing is the instructions tell us to level the base. So that's what I did. Now once everything was level, or at least the base was level, the instructions told us to put the handles on for the blade up and down and the blade angle, which you couldn't see is on the opposite side. I also put the belt guard and the belt on with the motor. That was real easy to do. As you see me taking a picture of that there, I was really impressed with how simple that was. Now the blade guard goes on with some bolts, and this is just a gravity tension on the belt. Like any contractor saw that's belt driven, it's all gravity fed, or gravity tension I should say. So that was about it, and put the belt on. It was a little hard to reach in there with my fat hands, but other than that, it was all good. And now it was time to get the hardware ready for the wings. Now the saw came with stamped metal wings, and I opted to buy the optional cast iron wings, which are way heavier than the stamped metal ones. So be prepared for that. You may have to hook yourself up with some sort of a lift or whatever to get these on there, but I was fortunate enough to be able to get them on there, get a couple screws started, and then finish putting the screws in after. But that was also, I will tell you, there is a left and a right, so make sure that you don't mix that up as well. Now here what I'm doing is I'm leveling or making the surfaces of the wings the same as the main surface of the saw. And once I get that to a place where it's close, then we get involved in putting the front angle braces or the front support and the back support on, which ultimately it will align and flatten your saw table. And this is where they tell you in the instructions to put your switch on. This was a pain in the butt. especially with somebody with big hands. Get yourself an extension on your ratchet, and that will help you a little bit here. But it was kind of a pain in the butt. Next, you see me opening up the box that has the front and back rails along with the rail that supports our fence. And these are pretty heavy and pretty stout. I believe they are 1/4 inch angle, and they really are very, very well made. I was very surprised that this particular part of it was that good a quality. But there again, you know, you're paying a lot of money for these saws, so it's, you got to get something more than just the mechanism that keeps your hand from getting cut off. The first thing I install is the front rail, and you put one bolt in on one side, and then you lift it up and put a bolt in the other side, and then you work your way around putting all the bolts in that you need to put in. And you don't really tighten these totally because you're going to re-flatten everything once you get the front and the back on again. Before we get started with that, we're going to need the side table, and we'll put that together and get that installed, put the legs on it, and then level that table one more time, or flatten that table one more time. Now what you see me putting on here is the leg bracket. It also holds up the side table. You hook your leg to it along with the side table, and it supports that whole end of the run out, which is kind of cool how that is. Now that is a wooden side table. I was a little surprised it was wood and not stamped metal, or at least cast iron, but it's still a nice table, and everything went together pretty good. Now here I just moved it around so that you could see what I was doing. I'm adjusting the feet on the bottom of the outrigger legs there, and I wanted you to be able to see that. It's a pretty good looking saw the way it's sitting there. I'm really liking how this thing is coming together. So basically just doing some fine tuning on the legs, and we'll move on to the next step. Okay, now we had to align the side table with the cast iron wing. So I do the same thing on the front, and then we're ready to put the saw into place where I'm actually going to keep it in the shop. My other shop saw was on the opposite wall, and I found out that this one had a smaller footprint, so I decided to put it on the same side as the long mill, and it really opened up that whole outer wall in my shop for a lot of other tools to be able to be readily accessible. Now right here I'm installing a couple of the bolts, well, all the bolts in the fence rail, and it says to pull them all the way forward and then put your fence on top. Get yourself a little credit card and use a credit card to set your spacing. You'll see what I mean when you look at your instructions. And there's a kind of like a little polymer rub rail that you can see on the left side there. Just stick your credit card in there, and that's where you need to set your fence rail. Then you can go ahead down through and tighten all your bolts. But you need to tighten the left one first, then move over to the right.
Okay, so that went together really easy. I was very surprised. I have a SawStop put together in my shop. And, you know, it's not just about having a SawStop. It's about having a good quality table saw. The center of our workshop. The meat and potatoes of our workshop, if you want to say. And I'm very proud that I finally have one. And thank you very much to my wife for making this a birthday gift for me. And it was just, she's the best. I don't really know what to tell you about it other than it's a SawStop. There's tons of videos out there with people that review and talk about their pluses and minuses. I'm not there yet. I just put this thing together. I thought I'd show you the way I would put it together and the procedures that I went through. I will tell you, it was cake. There was a couple of times when I got kind of dyslexic and I messed things up, but you know, I think that happens to the best of us. The instructions for this were second to none. Very, very easy. There's tons and tons to read in here, and I'm looking forward to reading and checking a lot of these things out. I want to make sure that everything is fine-tuned in the most perfect way. I do have it set up. It's level. It's flat all the way across. It's square. My fence is square. Very good fence too, by the way. I mean, this thing is stout. But what I'll do in the future is I'll use this saw and I'll do another review down the road, maybe 6 months down the road, and I'll let you know my pros and cons. But right now I don't have all that many. Just one con. And the con is dust collection for a contractor version is not good. It does not work as well as a cabinet saw. But we all knew that. I'm in a situation here where I don't have the room for a cabinet saw. Maybe a little bit, but it's just heavier. I just didn't have the room and I couldn't justify the expense for that. I mean, I could have. I was given the go-ahead, but I decided not to. That's just me. I will tell you in 6 months whether or not that was a good choice. So, hey, if you liked what you saw here, I'd appreciate if you go ahead and subscribe to the channel. If you want to see more videos, click that little bell there, that notification bell, and it'll remind you. YouTube will remind you when I post again. I really, really appreciate everybody's support. Thank you so much for watching. Be safe out there.